The official end of baseball season to me. No more Phillies games. And so I pop over because I got the what amounts to, was it the NHL ticket, and just look at the beginning of the second period as the Ottawa Senators put another one in against my Flyers. Yeah, I said it. My Flyers, my Phillies. I said it. And I hate when it's not even Halloween yet, and I'm like, the Phillies are out, but that's okay. We'll figure out what the hell's going on. Tea steaks, lobsters, and beer. Yeah, hey Rob, I'm all for that. I guess you need your garage roof fixed. That sucks. Well, I'm not sure about the steaks, but we are going to be talking some lobster. We're talking some lobster and pocket car in Harvard Yard tonight. I know that's horrible. And I'm going to get it in a good way. I'm going to get it from my guest. I see a slight smile when he's backstage. I'll actually have his wonderful lady. I didn't hear an accent out of her. She's too young for an accent, maybe. But we're definitely going to hear it from my guest. And before I go into it any further, let me give an intro. I met this gentleman at the outside of I think it's Gillette Stadium. Which is where the Pats play. And I can call them the Pats once again. And rightfully so. For those who know me, they were always the Cheatriots when Belichick and Brady and the rest of that team were playing. And we had this discussion. I already had this discussion. There's no hate there. As the Kansas City Chiefs got all the calls, it seems that the New England Patriots were always in good mix. And I'm sure we'll probably hear a lot of that. But you know what? I respect Mark Santos because his father, the great GIL Santos, and you guys might not know who GIL Santos is, but for Raiders fans, think GIL Santos as the Bill King of the New England Patriots. The old school, when radio pretty much even dominated over TV. And I was checking out the bio. Obviously, if you haven't heard of WBZ is one of the sports hotbeds in the United States. You can hear about the Fan in New York, but the Fan in New York or WIP in Philly holds no candle to WBZ. And GIL Santos, Mark's father, was the broadcaster for the Patriots. And for I'm actually going to get other sports. I'm sure he did for that year. And Mark was the son and got a chance to see his father hang out with old school AFL, young AFC. You know, I'm sure I want to hear about the Sox too, because we were talking about the Sox when we were doing this pre-broadcast. And we've been meaning to get this together. And I'm very, very happy, like I was last night, happy to get Reggie Kinlaw on. I'm very, very happy to bring in my friend, Mark Santos. As soon as he pops in, I'm going to move my camera over because there's no reason why he should have lines over his face. You know, that's good for me. So, Mark, salute to you, brother. And how are you doing, sir?
Very good, Jack. Thank you for that intro.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, my dad was the voice of the Patriots. He started in 1966 as the color analyst and he broadcast games in Fenway Park. In 1971, he got the play-by-play job, which he held till 1979. And you're right, WBZ was the flagship station for the Patriots, the Bruins, the Celtics, Boston College football. And in 1980, WBZ lost the contractual rights to call the Patriots games. So my dad didn't call the games from 1980 to 1990. Instead, he was the television voice of the Celtics for 13 years. He called Penn State football for 6 years, as well as Providence College basketball, Boston College basketball, Boston College football, Holy Cross basketball, Holy Cross football. He did some Red Sox games filling in with Dick Stockton back in the early 90s. And he also did a couple of NFL games on CBS with the late George Allen. It wasn't until 1991 when WBZ got the games back. And my dad had a 36-year career. He would have had a 47-year career, but my dad also called the 1984 Summer Games in Los Angeles. He broadcast the heavyweight boxing championship games with Ken Norton. He was very, 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 very versatile, like Bill King, like Marv Albert, like Merrill Reese, the voice of the Eagles. He was in that ilk, and to have my dad mention with the likes of Bill King is, it's quite an honor, because Bill King was a tremendous, tremendous broadcaster, not only for the Raiders, Jack, but also for the Oakland A's too.
Yes, for sure. And when you're in, and I can't even pronounce Boston the way you pronounce Boston, because I got to hear it. When you're in Boston, sports is inbred with everybody. I mean, it's Chowder and the Sox and the Pats and the Celtics. I can't do the accent justice, because when just listening to you when we were talking outside Gillette, and I have this wry grin on my face, because I'm listening to you talk sports like you would see in a bad episode of Cheers, where Cliff would be talking annoyingly. I screwed that up too. Annoy me about the with Sam and everybody else talking about the Sox and everybody else in there, and it's so wonderful. I know you get it. It's like, nah, I don't have an accent. You guys got an accent. So I get it. And I don't use it as a put down. I use it because it makes me feel good inside.
Yeah. So that's fine, Jack. That's fine. No. We hit it off instantly when I was walking out of the stadium after the opening day loss to the Raiders, and we just started talking, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, I go back, like you said. We're about the same age. I'm 61. I go back to the early days of the AFC. My dad went back to obviously the AFL, but the history between the Raiders, and I have to call them the Oakland Raiders, Jack. I can't call them the Las Vegas Raiders. To me, they're the Oakland Raiders. I have a tough time saying that. But
that's fine.
But
yeah. No, I got
you. The history between the two teams and the characters, and I remember as a kid, you talked about I said you think you became a Raider fan in '72. You were telling me, and I remember the Patriots in the early '70s. They were terrible, but of all the teams in the league that had a winning record against the Raiders, there was only one team, that was the Patriots. I mean, the Raiders dominated. I mean, from the late '60s to the late '70s. I mean, pride and poise, commitment to excellence. I mean, they were always 12-2, 11-3, 10-4. I mean, just a phenomenal organization that Al Davis and Madden and the whole nine yards. So I always had a lot of respect for the Raiders. And back in those days, the Patriots were so bad, you had to have a second favorite team. And some guys like the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Steelers, the Rams, the Vikings. I was a Raider fan. When the Patriots got knocked out, which they never made the postseason, for a number of years, I always rooted for the Raiders, because I like Stabler, I like Madden, I like Biletnikoff, and I like the fans, the way they played, and they were a bunch of renegades, a wild bunch of guys, and the silver and black, and yeah. So I've always kind of been a Raider fan at heart.
I'm sorry. I'm getting a little bit of a lag, and it's probably my computer.
No, I was saying that
People on me about my computer suck, so it probably is. I didn't get to do a little bit of maintenance thing on my screen that I can, aside from the one window that has this, and then we'll do all of that, and then it'll hopefully clean things up as far as the lag. But old school, living in Philly, watching the Raiders, watching them, because people would say, you were a Raiders fan in Philly? I said, yeah, because the Raiders were the team. I mean, listening to Kirk Gowdy and Al DeRogatis doing the play-by-play and the color, usually a 4:00 game if the Raiders were at home, and they would do and in those days, if I'm not mistaken, both networks could have double headers. They didn't worry about only one of the networks can have a double header at the time. I always saw the Raiders on NBC, and I didn't worry about what the Eagles were doing, because again, the Eagles sucked. Yeah, and that's a word that I try not to say about our Raiders at this time. I'm using every other word in the book about they're horrible, they're bad, they're putrid, they're horrid. But I don't want to use the term suck. I'll say that the suck about the Eagles in the 70s for sure. And I would also say that we as a Raiders team, we could not play the Patriots. As you said, the Patriots had our numbers in the 70s. And when you had guys like Steve Grogan and Jim Plunkett that would just consistently beat you with like Randy Vataha and the tight end Russ Francis. Yeah, and the offensive lineman like Charlie Hanna, who was actually mentioned last night by what was it? The gentleman that we had on interviewing last night, Reggie Kinlaw. He was talking about Charlie Hanna, just talking shit to him the entire game, and he was obviously one of the better linemen in football. So there's always been those colorful stories. And then we were talking pre-game, because we were talking this afternoon, and I'm like, remember that for tonight. Remember that for tonight. Remember that for tonight, because you were talking about all of these wonderful things that you had a chance to hear about from former Patriots that actually went to the Raiders. But is there anything, before we get into that, your background and how you as a kid got a chance to hang out with your father doing all of these events, like I said, doing all of the games with the Sox and with the you were saying a bunch of basketball teams. I mean, that's to me is the greatest thing that you can ever have, is you going to all of these games with your father. The father and son time to right there is just memorable. I mean, my father was in the Navy. Most of my father and son times was when he wasn't around, at sea. And then when he got sick, I saw him a lot, but it wasn't the same, because my dad wasn't really into sports. He got me to play baseball because he was more of a baseball player than a football player. He was a very tiny man. But for you to be there with all of these teams and what it could do to you, and having said, my dad, the announcer. I mean, if you could just enlighten us about how special that was to you.
Well, early 70s, the Patriots moved to Foxborough in 1971, Jack, and we moved to my hometown in Raynham, Mass, which is half hours north of where I was living before. And it was a big thing. I mean, the stadium is like 20 minutes from where I live. I still live in Raynham, and growing up with Jim Plunkett and Randy Vataha and Sam Cunningham, and I was a ball kid in the 70s, and I've seen probably over 500 games. I've seen 8 Super Bowls in person. I saw the Celtics win 3 NBA titles, 2 at the Garden. My dad called the Celtics games for 13 years. The Bruins, the Red Sox. I mean, I grew up with ball players, athletes, sports writers, television broadcasters, guys that I knew through my dad. And then just about a month ago, when the Patriots had their Hall of Fame induction ceremony, we inducted Julian Edelman and Coach Parcells. And I would see Raymond Claiborne, who I've known since 1977, Stanley Morgan, who I've known since 1977, Scott Zolak, the current broadcaster, I've known him for 30, 35 years. And a lot of these players are no longer with us. My Gino Capoletti, my dad's broadcast partner, I knew him for well over 40 years, close to 50 years. My dad is no longer with us. A lot of guys, Cunningham, Russ Francis is no longer with us. So it's, and I've been around the organization, specifically the Patriots, since I was about 4 years old. And I've built up a camaraderie with all these guys that are still with us. But I've known these players since I was like 9 years old. Jim Plunkett, I saw him at Super Bowl 38 in Houston when the Patriots played Carolina. I was at a cocktail party. I walked up to him with my dad's statistician, and I said, Jim, I'm Gil Santos' son. And he's looking at me. He's like, I haven't seen you since you were about 10 years old. And Reggie Rucker, another one, he became a broadcaster with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, so much. Joe Namath, I met him a handful of times. I mean, so many guys I've met through my dad. And, I said, well, I remember when my dad passed, I gave the eulogy, and I said, my dad always looked out for the little guy, but he also took me along for the ride. And he didn't have to do that, but he did. And he allowed me to build these relationships with all these athletes in all the 4 major sports that I still have a connection with a lot of these guys today that are still around. It's something that you can't put a price on it.
For sure. And I know that you're only going to be on for about an hour, so I got about 40 minutes. Tell Kayla I will get you out in an hour.
No problem.
Because I know I know that I want to make sure. And by the way, kudos and Bravo Zulu. That's a Navy thing for a kudo to Miss Kayla, who was helping you out on getting you all plugged into the show. Very wonderful lady, and I very good to meet her as well. But hey, quality time is quality time. I want to make sure you guys get that. So without other things, I want to make sure you were talking, and for folks here today, says, why is this guy on? I mean, I know a lot of Raider fans, they kind of, sometimes they're not as accommodating for things. That's why I said I like to bring in folks that just know fantastic things about the old school Raiders. Like I said, Reggie Kinlaw was on last night, and it's a shame that we didn't get more viewers, but I'm hoping that the cut-ups that Angelo did will get some viewership out. And the fact that you're talking about your dad was did boxing with Ken Norton, I'll say, hey, Angelo, when you see this, make sure that'll be one of the cut-ups, I'm sure, because Angelo's a boxing guy. So that'll definitely be a cut-up. But the things that you said that you have had the wherewithal and the fantastic timing, your favorite events that either dealt with the Pats or the Raiders or things along those lines, I'll get to that, and you can just color that as well. Your personal remembrances there, and then also I definitely want to make sure that, like I said, we go over the player that came to the Raiders after being with the Pats. And there was one other very colorful story, and gosh darn it, I can't remember. But I'm sure I'm just going to shut up because you do well on your own. You're like Phil, just give you a mic and let you talk, and you're good to go.
We talking about the one with Brian Holloway? Yeah.
Yes, sir. That's definitely.
Yeah, Brian Holloway, all-pro offensive tackle for the Patriots, #1 pick out of Stanford, and he got traded to the Raiders when they were based in Los Angeles at the time. And I've got to know him coming through the Hall of Fame. As you know, I work for the Patriots Hall of Fame. I've been there since it opened. And he starts telling me a story, Jack. And he said, Mark, he said, my first day with the Raiders, he shows up at the Coliseum to work out at about 6 o'clock in the morning. And the security guy didn't show up till about 7 o'clock. He was waiting around for an hour. Where the hell is everybody? No one's here. You know, he said with the Patriots, everybody showed up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. You know, team meetings, 7. Security guy says to him, he says, yeah, you're the guy we just got from New England, right? You're the kid from Stanford. He said, yeah. He said, what the hell are you doing here so early? He said, I want to go in the weight room. I want to work out. I want to meet some of the linemen. I want to meet the coaches. He said, nobody shows up here till about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. And he said, Mark, he said, everything I heard about the Raiders was exactly 100% correct. He said, the practices were just like, I mean, he's describing this to me, Jack, and I'm like, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And he said, it wasn't so much that you had to show up at the practices, but I guess there was a certain restaurant establishment that they would have team get-togethers at least twice a week. And God forbid you didn't show up for that, you weren't going to play on Sunday. And he's telling me stories about he played with Pastorini and Plunkett. Well, Pastorini had already retired, but playing with Jim Plunkett. Snake Stabler was already with the Houston Oilers, but guys like Cliff Branch and Matuzak and Elzato. And he's talking to me about how Neanderthal the offense was, because I have all the respect in the world for Al Davis, tremendous owner, real character. I don't have to tell you that, but you know, he said, Mark, we ran the same offense that they ran in the 60s with Tom Flores and LaMonica and Blanda, and they're running the same offense 25 years later. Throw the ball deep. He said they never changed anything, and that was always the Raider mantra: stretch the field. And he's telling me this, and I'm like, he's like, it was a complete culture shock to go from playing for the Patriots, where they did everything by the book, to go play for the Raiders. And it was like a complete free-for-all, but they won. And that's a credit to Al Davis and the way he ran that organization. And to me, you know, a lot of Patriots fans, you know, there's a lot of bad blood between the Patriots and the Raiders, and a lot of it stems from the old AFL days, and a lot of it stems from what happened to Darryl Stingley. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's just a game. And I can say, in being the son of Patriots Hall of Fame broadcaster GIL Santos, that I have the utmost respect for the Oakland Raider organization, the Las Vegas Raiders, the LA Raiders. You know, what happened between Jack and Darryl, that's football. That's the way the game was played back then. Am I upset that Jack never apologized to Darryl? Yes, I am. I think he should have apologized to Darryl. But you know something? At the end of the day, John Madden and Al Davis, they looked after Darryl for about a week to 2 weeks every day at that hospital until he was able to fly back home to Boston. And I have a lot of respect for that organization. I really do. I had a chance to meet Madden a couple of times. I had a chance to meet Matuzak, Elzato. I've met a lot of ball players, but there's always a small part of me that roots for the Raiders. And that for being someone who's affiliated with the Patriots, that's probably hard to believe, but I played football at a few different levels, and I know, and you know, that that's the way the game was played back in the 70s. And what happened to Darryl was tragic, but I don't think Jack meant to. Of course, he didn't go out and try to hurt him. I mean, that's the way he played. That's the way Atkinson played. That's the way everybody played back then. You know, an eye for an eye. That's the way the game was played.
Yeah, and we did have this discussion after sitting outside Gillette as well. It's one of those things where I wanted to make sure, and I'm glad you knew that obviously what John Madden did and what Al Davis did to Darryl and his family while he was resting in Oakland after that, unfortunate, and I think the term is unfortunate hit, because there was nothing dirty or nasty about it. Yes, the Raiders had a, but before the Williams secondary or the Williams defense of the Saints had bounties, the Raiders had bounties in the 70s. But they weren't the only one. There were other teams that would put like money in a kitty, like we were talking about last night. Actually, Reggie Kinlaw had like a bet against one of his fellow, I think it was a Sooner, about who was going to get the more sacks that evening. It was just like betting that you do, kind of like online nowadays, like you figure out like a parlay with who's going to do what. Well, back then it was who had the best hit, and they did have that. And it is unfortunate that Darryl was put out in such a way that when he went down after the hit, it snapped the vertebra, and he was no longer able to be himself, quadriplegic, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yeah, he was. And as a matter of fact, I can remember when DeMar Hamel went down for Buffalo. That to me was when Darryl went down, my dad was broadcasting the game. I was going into my freshman year of high school, watching the game on Channel 4, listening to the game on WBZ, and a lot of the players. As a matter of fact, the story I'm going to get around to is that they didn't think Darryl was going to live through the night. So when DeMar Hamel went down, a lot of flashbacks about Darryl, and of course I can't ask my dad because he's no longer with us. But the next day, Tim Fox, who played for the Patriots for 7 or 8 years, hard-hitting #1 pick out of Ohio State, a guy I've known very well for a long time, he happened to call in the 98.5 The Sports Hub. And he was talking with Scott Zolak, and he was talking with Mark Bertrand, and they were talking about Darryl, comparing the incident that happened the night before with DeMar Hamel. And he didn't introduce himself as a player. He just said, "My name is Tim." And he started to tell the story how John Madden called the airport. Of course, this is 1978, Jack. Nobody had cell phones back then. And Coach Madden called the airport in Oakland and told got the pilot on the phone, somehow was able to get the pilot on the phone. I don't know how he was able to do that, but to tell him, don't leave because we don't know if he's going to live through the night. And I never knew that. I never knew that. And my dad, I know he didn't come home I think the Patriots stayed in Oakland till I think maybe Tuesday or Wednesday for a Saturday night game. So they stayed in Oakland for about 5 days, because they wanted to make sure Darryl was gonna make it. And just putting aside the rivalries and the hatred teams had for one another back then, the Raiders and the Steelers, the Patriots and the Jets, the Patriots and the Raiders, it's just the game at the end of the day. And exactly, Darryl, very unfortunate, and Jack and Darryl will be forever linked. And I feel bad for Jack Tatum. I know he's gone. I know he's passed away too. And people up here still, vilify him, and I don't think that's right. Do I wish Jack apologized to Darryl? Yes, but it's water over the bridge now. But it's an unfortunate incident, and both those guys will be linked together forever because of that.
Yeah. And actually, I have heard through my Raider sources, because remember how Madden and Al Davis were there constantly with Darryl and the family, or they had the family come in to make sure that he was well kept. I was told that Jack had attempted to apologize, and basically our team, I'm very sorry, had some come up in the throat, but that the Raiders actually prevented him. I'm not sure about how true that was, but I do know that there were attempts to have that reconciled. Now, I also do know, and I know that Mike was saying no need for him to apologize because he didn't do it intentionally. Yes and no. Yeah, it wasn't intentional. But when you have something as horrific as that, it's always nice to get the kind of like in Japan, if you throw it in baseball, if you throw at a player and it hits him, you're supposed to get the head nod or the hat. I didn't do that deliberately. It's a courtesy. And I think that's what was missing.
Yeah,
And
not to interrupt you, Jack, but I think the Raider mantra back then, especially in the secondary with George Atkinson and Jack and Nehemiah Wilson and Art Toms and Neil Colsey. I mean, it was for him to come out and apologize. That's not the way. Not only the Raiders. That's not the way anybody played back then. That's not. It wasn't done. I mean, same thing in the National Hockey League. The same way. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I mean, there was the players policed the game on the field, much like the players in the National Hockey League policed the game on the ice back in the 70s, back in the 60s. I mean, there was no. To get a pass interference call back in the mid to late 70s, or roughing the passer call, was almost unheard of. You had to really take somebody's head off just to even think about throwing a flag. The game was played differently, and Jack was an all-pro defensive back, number 1 pick out of Ohio State. I was just mentioning Tim Fox. Tim Fox came after Jack. Jack, I know he graduated, I believe, in 71. I think he was a rookie, or 72. And Tim Fox took over for Jack when he graduated. And Tim Fox was the number 1 pick out of Ohio State as well by the Patriots in 76. So same type of player as Jack. You're a free safety, a strong safety in the NFL, especially a strong safety. You have to go up there and stop the run and take people's heads off. And that's what they're paying you to do, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, that's actually a good segue from things that and trust me, anything else that you want to talk about, pretty much the floor is yours. But you mentioned it, the way the players are back then, as to what you see now, or I kind of call it the pussification. I'm not sure if that is a proper word. And sorry, Kayla, I said that, but it's true. The pussification of the NFL and the way that it's played nowadays. Because, like I said, it almost took an act of Congress to get those penalties back in the 70s. The hits were there. The quarterbacks were a hell of a lot tougher back then than they are now. And nowadays, you lay a finger, here's the finger to Mr. Mahomes. Oh, that's a personal foul because, you touched him as he was going out of bounds, even though he was in bounds at the time. And it sucks to see. But what are your thoughts on that? And because you see it daily or during the year when you are at this. And by the way, if you are in Boston, make sure you go to the Patriots Hall of Fame right at Gillette, because that's where Mark works. And I didn't know about it, or I would have stopped in. But as it was, I got a chance to see on the way out. But your thoughts on that, and what you had seen, and what your father had mentioned to you, how it was transpired throughout the years, and what his thoughts were on that.
Oh, I mean, Jack, there's so many chicken shit calls today in the NFL. I mean, it's pathetic. I mean, 2 weeks ago we played the Saints in New Orleans, and they called a penalty on Steph Diggs. He caught a pass down the right sideline, would have set us up first and goal. A game we ended up winning anyway. But he put his hands on the defensive back's shoulder, and today, let's face it, okay, everything is about points. Everything's about the audience. Everything's about the television ratings. Everything's about fantasy football. And I use this term a lot in the National Hockey League because it's the same thing. I mean, you can't touch a player today. You can't touch Alex Ovechkin. You can't touch Sidney Crosby. You can't touch Tom Brady when he was playing. You can't touch Pat Mahomes. And the players back in the era we're talking about, they were a lot tougher. I think the players today are much bigger, they're much faster, they're much stronger. But in terms of toughness, and I always laugh when you watch the Raiders and the Steelers rivalry, and they would interview George Atkinson and interview Tatum, and they asked George Atkinson about Lynn Swann, and he goes, soft. You know, I love that. He goes, what was your impressions of Lynn Swann? Soft. It was, yeah, I mean, you know, you have to look out for the safety of the players. You have to. But I think it's gone beyond the point where, you know, you're a defensive back. I played defense in high school. I played minor league football. I was a defensive back. You can't do anything. Everything's geared to the offense. You know, which it's unfortunate.
Okay, and again, you were there, and you mentioned you've seen seven Super Bowls up close and personal.
Eight. As a matter of fact, the first one I was at, 1976. This is a good. I mean, you gave me a nice segue here. 1976. The Patriots went from 3-11 to 11-3. The Raiders were 13-1. They got beat by the Patriots in Foxborough. They got annihilated, 48-17. So my dad was covering the Patriots. Obviously, they broadcast it. He would cover the Super Bowls for WBZ. He took the whole family down to Pasadena for 2 weeks because we thought the Patriots were going to go to the Super Bowl. And it goes back to that playoff game where the roughing the passer call on Sugar Bear Hamilton, which to this day I think was an absolute travesty of a call. But payback's a bitch because we beat you guys in the snow game. So
yeah, you guys call it the snow game. We have another. I think, yeah. Another, and they're two words that kind of rhyme, so that's what we call it.
But I was at that Super Bowl. The first Super Bowl I was at was Super Bowl 11, the Raiders and the Minnesota Vikings, and I still vividly remember Willie Brown intercepting Fran Tarkenton late in the fourth quarter, and then to hear the call from Bill King on NFL Films. Old man Willie, he's going all the way. I mean, that was right in front of me. And I remember distinctively that game, Ray Guy, the late, great Ray Guy, he had a punt blocked. Never had a punt blocked in his career. I think he only had one or two, but to that point, he never had a punt blocked. And Matt Blair, the Vikings linebacker, comes up to shoot, blocks a punt. The Vikings get the ball inside the 5-yard line. They go 3 downs. I think they gain half a yard. My father looks at me. He says, Mark, if the Raiders stop him here, this game is over. I'm like, what do you mean, Dad? He says, trust me. If the Vikings don't score a touchdown on 4th down here, this game is over. And I'm like, how can you say that? It's Super Bowl. They got Fran Tarkenton, they got Chuck Foreman, they got Sammy White, they got Alan Page and Carl Eller. The Vikings are a hell of a team. I was rooting for the Raiders, rooting for the AFC. He says, Mark, Minnesota gets stopped here. The Raiders, they don't have a prayer. And he was exactly right. The Raiders stuffed them. They stopped. I think it was Brent McClanahan was the running back. Stabler came out, started dissecting with Dave Casper and Bolitnikoff and running the ball with Clarence Davis. And I think the final score was 32-14, and it wasn't even that close.
Yep, you are correct. You got it right on the head, 32-14.
And
I think Cazero Man, I think, missed two points after, or it should have been 34.
He did. The straight on kick did. And I remember Sammy White came across the middle, and Jack Tatum absolutely laid him out. It's on. I'm sure you've seen it. It's on NFL Films, and White's helmet just goes flying, and Tatum's standing right over him. And I remember, I'm like, my God, I think he just decapitated him. And I think that the block punt, not scoring, and the Raiders coming down and scored. I think that was the Vikings' next series after they went ahead 7-0. and that set the tone for the rest of the game. It's like, you're not coming across the middle. I think the receivers were, I believe, Ahmad Rashad would have been a receiver, Sammy White.
Yep.
And I think John Gilliam was on that team too. And Tarkinen, obviously, Tarkinen was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And the Vikings never had they never had a prayer, never had a shot.
Yeah, actually, when Jack was still alive and he was doing the signings, I have a black and white photo of that, of him standing over Sammy White, and that was the one that I had him sign. So, my personalized, and it's here in this room somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where, but the Jack Tatum standing over, and it's a black and white, which actually makes it more, in my mind, it makes it more vivid, that it's right there. I had him sign that because that's what he was. That, and also the unfortunate Daryl hit is what he's most remembered for, were those two hits. And, it was him. That was Jack Tatum. And you had a chance, like you said, the Patriots, and you got revenge before the snow game. You got your revenge before the snow game, because I remember a gentleman by the name of Mosi Tutupu.
Oh, yes. You talking about the playoff game in 86 and 85?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am. So, yes. Yeah, you didn't have to wait until the tuck to get your revenge. The Raiders they were earmarked for the Super Bowl. And one of the most slightest gentlemen to play football for the Patriots did us in. So were you there? Do you have any memories of that as well?
No, I wasn't at that game. I was at that Super Bowl. That was my second Super Bowl, Super Bowl 20. I actually drove to the Jets when we played the Jets in the wild card game. I drove to that game with a couple of buddies of mine, and the same guys that drove with their dad owned the business. They went to the Raider game, and then we all went to the Super Bowl. And they may have went to the AFC Championship against Miami. I didn't go to that, but I went to the Jet game and the Super Bowl against Chicago. But that game against the Raiders, that playoff game, a good friend of mine, Jimmy Bowman, he recovered a fumble in the end zone. I think the Raider kick returner was Sammy Seal was a kick returner for the Raiders, and he fumbled the ball. He got hit. He picked it up. He fumbled it again. The ball bounced into the end zone, and Bowman recovered it. Number 28, a defensive back. I think he was a 5th or 6th round pick. I know Jimmy very well. He lives a couple of towns over from me. He's a liquor salesman. And I believe the Raiders were winning that game 17-7, and the Patriots just we said Mosi Tutupu, Craig James. They averaged over 200 yards a game on the ground in the playoffs, and the defense just completely beat the crap out of Mark Wilson. And that was pretty much all she wrote. I forgot about that. Thanks for bringing that up, Jack. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, Mark, I got to tell you, I'm very sorry. That's a swear word on this show. Mark Wilson, please don't say that again.
He actually finished his career with the Patriots. You know?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
I got to meet him a couple of times. Nice guy.
Yeah,
real nice guy. All the ability in the world. Looked like a quarterback. Great physique. Just he was a sitting duck back there. He couldn't move, and either the ball was going to go to the right receiver or was going to go 30 miles over his head. There was no in between with Mark Wilson. Either he was pretty good or he completely sucked, and that was basically, there was no in between,
And since you were saying that, your memories of the Patriots, because I don't want to take away from your, obviously the team that you know more is your team. What are other things that were ingrained in you living there? Your favorite Patriots players, things that just were very personalized to you, that would be something that you would wish to impart upon the fans of the Raiders. Because again, we're hearing and I'm reading the comments, and there's a lot of negativity, And like, unfortunately, as the gentleman last night said, okay, have patience, folks. Trust me, I have patience. I'd like to see another Super Bowl victory. And by the way, folks, and this is not bullshit, Mark told me after the first game, he said, I see the Raiders being a damn good team this year and you know, even getting to be a playoff team. And I actually said that, you know, I see the Patriots being a playoff team this year. And at least one of us is right, and that's me. You know, so in that respect, I really do believe that the Patriots are going to just continue to be a snowball. But again, folks, go back to it's a rebuild. I know that that's a bad word to say for a lot of people out there, but this is a rebuild. But your thoughts on your favorite Patriot teams and your other memories here, because we got about 10 minutes. I want to make sure I get the best that I can out of you before we have to part ways.
Yeah, my favorite memories, Jack, the teams in the 70s, 74, they were 7-7. They started out 6-1. 76, 11-3. 77, 78. Grogan, Cunningham, Shelby Jordan, who played with the Raiders, John Hanna, Julius Adams. Those were my favorite memories because the Patriots back then, let's face it, I mean, in a city where you've got the Red Sox, who've been around since the early, late 1800s. The Bruins just celebrated their 100th year anniversary last year. And the Celtics, winning all those titles in the 50s and 60s, the Patriots, even when they started to get good, they were still the bottom four by a long shot because they sucked for so many years. In the mid-70s, they had some great teams, averaged 10 wins a year. But to me, I would have loved to have seen Steve Grogan win a Super Bowl with the Patriots or Jim Plunkett win a Super Bowl with the Patriots. Those guys, Randy Vataha, Don Calhoun, Stanley Morgan, Raymond Claiborne, Andy Johnson, John Smith. There's so many guys that you know that my dad called the games and I got to see growing up, and all the lean years in the early 70s, to see them become very competitive was great. But unfortunately, they played in the AFC, which had the Steelers, the Oakland Raiders, the Dolphins. They were a good football team, but they weren't good enough. So then to see them become a dynasty in an 18-year period where they won 6 Super Bowls, that was unbelievable. And as great as that was, and as great as that first Super Bowl was, to me, the red uniforms, the red jerseys, I wish one of those teams could have won a Super Bowl because I was closer to the team back then because I was just a kid, and I was close with Billy Sullivan, Pat Sullivan. It was more of a family-run operation. Professional sports in the 70s and the 60s, it wasn't a business. It was basically it wasn't as corporate as it is today, and the fans were different, and I think the fan base was different, and there were no luxury boxes. It was just a different time, and I really wish that one of those 70s teams could have at least made it to a Super Bowl, but they did in '85 with a lot of those same players. That '85 team, you had Claiborne, you had Morgan, you had Steve Grogan, you had John Hanna, Julius Adams, Steve Nelson, Andre Tippett, a lot of those guys that Brian Holloway was on that team, a lot of those guys that played on some of those terrible teams. I think 8 or 9 guys that Chuck Fairbanks drafted in the early 70s, between 73, 74, 75, 76, about almost a dozen players from those 70s teams played on that '85 Super Bowl team almost 10 years later, which is quite a testament to Chuck Fairbanks and the drafting of both him and Bucko Kilroy, the general manager, to put together a team that was, okay, maybe they were a fluke in '85, but I don't think they were. I think they deserved to win the AFC title. They completely mauled the Dolphins. They pretty much controlled that game against the Raiders we were talking about in the second half, and the Jets never had a prayer in that game. So that, to me, my greatest memories were those teams, and my dad calling the games with Gino Capoletti. I did stats for my dad. The old Schaefer Stadium was it was a bloodbath. Fights left and right. We didn't have a Monday night game for 15 years. It was labeled the Foxborough Zoo because most of the guys that went to the games in the early days of that stadium, they were just there to get away from their wives and watch the other teams because the Patriots weren't that good. You talk about stadiums today that have a jail in the stadium and a courthouse. They definitely could have used one in Foxborough. I mean, my recollection of the early days of that stadium, 71, 72, 73, I'd be at the games with my grandfather or friends of my dad's, and you saw hardly any girls were ever at the games, and you very seldom saw any kids at the games. And I grew up around that environment, and to me that was normal,
Hey, I do have to ask, were you at that snow game?
Oh, the snowplow game against Miami or the snow game against the Raiders?
How about both?
I was at both of them. Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Okay, you're right, because those are memories that, having been there, that's probably two of the most memorable, at least for fans that are not dyed in the cloth Patriot fans. They know about the snowplow game as well as that other game. So tell us a little bit about that while we still got a couple minutes.
Well, the snow game against Miami, I was 18 years old. I just graduated high school. And I remember getting home from a nightclub with a buddy of mine who went to UConn, played baseball, like 3 o'clock in the morning. And the temperature dropped from like 50 the day before to like 20. Okay. I get in around 3 a.m. I wake up at 7. There's a blizzard outside. And my father says, you better get in your car and drive to the game now because your mother's not going to let you drive to the game in this kind of weather. And so I think I was one of the first ones in the stadium. Me and a buddy of mine, he was 18 or 19, and there were 25,000 people there at that game. And it was like 6 inches of snow on top of 4 inches of ice. And if Mark Henderson didn't come in to clear that spot for John Smith, the game more or less would have ended in a 0-0 tie because you couldn't get any traction. But Mosi Tatupu was born in Samoa. I think he had size 15.5 to 16-inch feet. And he was able to churn out about 130 yards on the ground. And the Dolphins had a running back named Andre Franklin, and he had about 140 yards on the ground. I think Grogan threw 5 passes. David Woodley, the late Miami quarterback, I think he threw like 20. And the Dolphins never had a prayer. They went out there with their little orange T-shirts and the sweatshirts, and I mean, they were a lot better than we were, but we were able to win the game because of the weather and because of Mark Henderson. And then the Raider game, the Tuck Rule game, that game was a very emotional game, very emotional day. That was the last game of that stadium. And the Raiders pretty much controlled most of that game. They had a 13-3 lead, and it looked like the Patriots they couldn't get out of their own way. John Gruden was the head coach of the Raiders, and for all intents and purposes, I never heard of the Tuck Rule before. And as much as I think the Patriots got robbed in that 76 playoff game with the Raiders, I think almost every Patriot fan, including myself, would say, yeah, I think the Raiders, was it a good call? Yeah, for the Patriots it was, but did the Raiders get hosed? Yeah, they did. They did. And my recollection from that game, I didn't see it, but I heard from my dad and a couple of members of the media that Al Davis was so irate, I think, like 4 or 5 state troopers had to go up there and try to escort him out of there. He was absolutely beside himself, and with good reason. I don't blame him. If I owned the Raiders, if I was Al Davis, I would have felt the same way. No one ever heard of the Tuck rule, and I don't believe to this day that rule still exists. But it did that day, and it set the Patriots on an 18-year run, and it set the Raiders back for, well, the following year they went to the Super Bowl, but after that they pretty much crashed and burned. And it was kind of a tale of two franchises. The Raiders had all that success. The Patriots didn't have much success. And after that game, the Patriots became a dynasty, and the Raiders became back of the pack.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to bring in my co-host for the show. This is who I affectionately call Raider Fester. And there it is. That's one of the reasons why, it's a spitting image per se. So Tom, T3 Sports Guy, Raider Fester, Mark Santos. I'm glad that I can bring you guys together as well. And Tom, you had somebody that you wanted to mention to Mark about the Patriots. Somebody that you had some recollections of as well. Up. You're muted. You're muted, Tom.
Here we go. You hear me now?
I can hear you now, Tom.
Yep.
Better. Good. All right. Good to be on with you. One of the players that I used to follow all the time, and probably because he was so small, was a guy by the name of Minnie Mac Heron.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Mac Heron was the actual kickoff return leader in 1973. He was only 5'5". And it was kind of hilarious when you would have him in the backfield along with Sam Cunningham, who was tremendous, and they would have the two next to each other. Sometimes they would refer to them as David and Goliath.
Yeah, Mac Heron, you're absolutely right. He was a rookie in '73. Matter of fact, he played in Canada, and he played. I believe he went to college with Steve Grogan. I think he went to Kansas State. He graduated 2 or 3 years before Grogan did, and he was a star in the CFL. We signed him off the waiver wire in '73. In '74, he ended up setting the NFL record for all-purpose yardage that Gail Zers had held. And to this day, I believe that record stood for about close to 30 years. And Terry Metcalf's son, Eric Metcalf, when he was playing for Cleveland, broke that record. And I think that record still stands to this day. But Mac Heron, the late, great Mac Heron, 5'5", about 150 pounds. Nice guy, real nice guy, character. But he was a hell of a football player. He really was. He was like a little ping pong.
Yep.
Well, and again, the colorful folks that the Pats had. Oh, one more thing, Tom. I'm sorry. I apologize. I stepped on you, sir.
No. That's great. And I watched the Patriots Raiders game, the Tuck rule game, and you were absolutely right. Al had to be escorted off by several people. What a lot of people don't know, and we found out kind of after the fact, is as angry as Al was about losing the game, he was actually relieved in a way about losing, because he knew that if Gruden had won that game, he was going to have to pay him. And Al didn't want to pay people. So at that point, he figured he had an out, and that's when he put together the trade package to get him out of town and see what it could get for him. So he admitted to several people that if Gruden had won that game, he knew he was probably going to have to dip into his pocket and pay the man.
Yeah, then the following year, Gruden goes to Tampa Bay, and they beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl, and I was pulling hard for the Raiders that day. I don't like Tampa Bay. I never have. And I thought the Raiders, going into that game, I thought they were going to win. But they, as good as Rich Gannon was, I believe it was the MVP that year. The Buccaneers defense was just too much for them. Much like when we played Chicago in Super Bowl 20, we didn't have a chance. Their defense was too good, and that's it was unfortunate for the Raiders.
The Raiders actually
and
got
again,
off to a good start in that game.
They did.
They took the lead, and they were starting to wear down the Tampa Bay defense. and things were starting to look kind of good, but then they just ran out of gas and they started telegraphing all their moves, and Tampa Bay was just it was like shooting fish in a barrel at that point.
Yeah, Jerry Rice was on that team too, wasn't he? I believe Jerry Rice. He retired.
Jerry Rice and
Yes,
Tim
sir.
Brown.
Jerry Rice, Brown, and then Jerry Porter was actually the receiver in the second half that actually started getting some plays for him when he started to make a mini comeback. It was long balls that, or actually I think Porter's the guy that got the touchdown, and then it was like closer a bit, and then Rich threw another pick six, I think, after that. So
yeah, Jerry Porter, I forgot about him.
Yeah.
He was a player. He was a good player. Yeah. So many characters have come through both teams. I mean, so many characters. We could talk for days. I mean, remember the Raider receiver Swervin Mervin Fernandez? Remember him?
Swervin Mervin.
yeah,
Swervin Mervin.
yeah. I'm supposed to see him. I'm supposed to see him next weekend in Reno if things go correctly. I will be up in Reno for an event, and Swervin Mervin is there. Was it the master of, the king of whatever the title is? But yeah, Swervin Mervin's supposed to be at the Reno event next weekend. I was actually working. I got to redo my itinerary in order to go to that. But yeah, I'll let him know that he was thought of. Me. I said, hey, Mark Santos remembers you as well.
I mean, so many guys. I remember. Well, another guy I got to talk to who played for the Raiders, played a big part for the Raiders, was Mark Van Egan. He's from Cranston, Rhode Island, and his daughter married Danny Copen.
Oh yeah,
a longtime center, played at BC, and I was talking to him at the induction ceremony for Mike Vrabel and Dante Scarnecchia 2 years ago. And I said, Mark, tell me some stories about playing for the Raiders. He was like, he was the same thing as Brian Holloway. He says, man, he says, you couldn't make this stuff up. It was to me, the most influential person, I believe, in the 100-year history of the NFL, in the modern times, was Al Davis. He was a maverick. He did it his way. He built a tremendous organization, and he's from Brockton, Massachusetts, which is the next town over from me, where I reside today, where I grew up in. And I always had the utmost respect for the Raiders, and I always will. And that's probably hard to believe coming from someone who's affiliated this close with the Patriots, because no one, especially ex-players, management, coaches, everyone in the Patriots despised that organization. I didn't. And I can say that, and I mean that 100%. I mean every word of that.
Well, I'm going to say this, okay? You said we can talk for days on that. We might, because you're welcome back anytime, because I know that there are more stories that need to be said, especially if you can get a hold of Mark and any of those other players that would like to talk, or even Patriot players that said, hey, if you'd like to talk old school, I got an old school guy that would love to talk to you. So I will let you do your cooking in that respect, but you, sir, Mark, are welcome anytime. And I will say this, we got to go to Fenway Park, because I haven't been Fenway Park yet, and I got to see the monster. I got to see it. I got to see it up close and personal.
Okay.
So we'll have to make plans in the spring to do that.
And best of luck to the Raiders don't play this week. They can't lose. That's right. You said that to me earlier today.
That's right.
Yes, I guarantee you we will not lose this weekend.
I mean,
we don't have to worry about
I'll make
how the fuck do you get fired on your day off? I don't want that happening. That would be the only thing.
It's amazed me how good and how organized they looked on opening day against the Patriots, and they looked like a well-oiled machine. They really did, because in the second half they took control of that game. We couldn't stop Brock Bowers. We couldn't stop Geno Smith. And Pete Carroll, with all his rahness, say what you want about him. He's a very successful coach. He coached us. He coached USC, obviously the Seahawks. To me, it's quite shocking, not only the way they've lost this year, and not only the fact that they're 2-5, but they've taken quite a few beatings, and that really surprised me after watching them on opening day. Of course, you look at the NFL. I'll make this quickly now. I mean the NFL now. I'll make this quick. Nobody plays in the preseason, so the first 3 or 4 weeks are basically an extension of the preseason, and maybe that's why the Patriots look so flat. Maybe that's why the Raiders look so good. But I think in time, Pete Carroll will have them competitive. Maybe not this year, but I think next year, Jack.
Well, again, I hope to make, because we are, and I say we, the Raiders do go to New England next year. The way the schedule hits out, hopefully it'll be early, because Mark, I am not going to Philly as of right now, because there's 2 things that I don't do when I'm from Florida, is to go to cold weather games on purpose. Okay,
yeah,
so hopefully I'll be able to hit you early. I went to Kansas City this past weekend because it was still early October, and I am going to Green Bay next month. That's the coldest I want to be, but that's on me because it's a real game between the Packers and the Eagles, and I'm going as a kind of a neutral fan, so I will see that. But I don't want to do anything else cold. So we'll see how the schedule hits, but I definitely want to make sure we make plans to go to a Red Sox game. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for sharing. And don't worry, we're going to have other times, because you're always welcome to come in anytime you want to impart wisdom, knowledge, and old school comments if they are enjoyable. And again, thank you, Kayla, for all that you've done as well.
Thank you very much, Jack. It's been a pleasure having me on. I appreciate it very much. And I'll steal a line from the late, great Al Davis. Just win, baby, right? Just win, right?
All right. Hey, and that's the way. That's the way to go out. Mark, thanks again, sir. You take care.
Thanks, Mark.
And we'll see you on another show.
Thank you very much, fellas. Thank you both very much. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You're welcome. Thanks again.
Thank you.
That Mark Santos. Thank you, sir. That was Mark Santos. I got and there's Fester, so he's ready to go as well. And again, I guaranteed him, Tom Fester. I guaranteed him no losses this week. No losses this week.
You got
now,
right.
That doesn't include that does not include any losses to any disgruntled wide receivers.
Right. Or sons of coaches.
Because I yes. Oh, please, let's talk about that. And for folks here again, Tom T3 Raider Fester Jones is in here to impart his wisdom and knowledge as I watch the Flyers. With 8 minutes left, they're down 2-1. So again, it's the end of baseball season when I'm watching hockey.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Well, we'll see what happens and heads are going to roll at some point. We just don't know who or how many. And Mark pointed out earlier that the Raiders look really good in week 1 against the Patriots, and they did, but that was all kind of a facade because the Raiders have some talent, but everybody came in healthy game 1. They got down a couple of people, and what became exposed was the coaching and also the depth. This team does not have both. Pete Carroll has a huge pedigree as far as track record of experience and success, but he doesn't have a lot of depth on that team. And part of that problem, and again, we mentioned this last week ad nauseum, is the fact that you can't have any type of foundation when you have 5 general managers in 5 years. You just can't, because people keep shuffling the deck and bringing in their own players. Well, that wasn't my player, so we'll bring in some others, and then it just keeps changing. I really thought that when Champ Kelly was on board and they let Ziegler and McDumass go, that they would go ahead and put Champ Kelly in, let him go ahead and run and steer the ship, and have him make the decision on whether or not to keep Antonio Pierce. Instead, uh, Mark Davis again just jettisoned everybody. You just can't keep doing that. I mean, no matter how much you want your team to win, at some point you have to stick with it. And I will credit the New York Giants this past year. I really will, because the Giants came in, not a lot of hope for them. They're kind of bottom of the barrel, and not one but two teams in their division were playing for the Super Bowl the previous year. So they were looking all the way from the bottom. So what they did was they had the number 3 overall pick, and they picked the best defensive player in the draft, edge rusher Abdul Carter. But then they said, you know what? We're going to roll the dice. We're going to go back in, and we're going to trade up, and we're going to get our rookie quarterback. And he may pan out, he may not. But we're going to go ahead and roll the dice. We're going to take a chance with that, and we're going to bring him in. And then after they brought in Jackson Dart at round 1, they got Darius Alexander, a really good defensive tackle, in round 3, and then they got Cam Skattebo, running back, in round 4. And then they got Marcus Zimbo, offensive lineman, in round 5. They drafted 7 players. All 7 of their players stuck on the roster. And it wasn't because they didn't have talent, it's because these guys were talented. They were able to handpick different positions that could be good position players and good depth pieces who might not have to start right away. And that's how you do it, Jack. We've talked about this a long time. We've talked about this. You have to build pieces that maybe you're not going to rely on right away, but they're going to be ones that you can depend on. You and I talked about this at length. I was screaming and hollering back in 2024. We had the draft. And again, Brock Bowers, excellent pick. Kind of hard to deny the fact that he was selected. But I wanted to go with Taliesin Fuaga, the offensive tackle. I wanted to go with him in round 1, and then Mason Smith, the defensive tackle out of LSU, in round 2, because what I wanted to do was I wanted to say, look, we need to build up these lines. Before we do anything else, we need to build up offensive line, defensive line, bring in guys who can be dependable and be counted on for years, guys who you can pick up and extend. And that's the things the Raiders haven't done for years. Colton Miller was the first guy in years and years and years who went beyond a rookie contract. You just have to have those people to stick. Tyree Wilson's not sticking around. Uh, if they don't trade him, he's walking. Josh Jacobs walked a couple of years ago. The Raiders got what they could out of him, but they weren't going to pay him. He outlived his welcome. Now, I'm not sure about Max. I think they're committed to Max as far as the franchise goes. I had talked about the fact that I really saw Max going to another team, and he still might. It depends on what package they put together. And of course, they're going to have lots of people come knocking on doors, as bad as the Raiders do, say, "Hey, look, what can we do to get Max out of town?" So those calls are going to come. Jacoby Myers is gone. I think it's just a matter of what we get in exchange for him. I wouldn't be surprised to see Daniel Carlson not return next year, to be honest with you. Again, I don't know. It depends on what he's going to be asking and what the Raiders may commit as far as dependability goes. Dylan Parham, there's a question mark. He came in in 2022. I really thought that he was going to be the new starting center. When he came in, I thought, okay, well, he's going to take over as center for Andre James, but he's just kind of been middle of the road. And again, it's an entirely mediocre cast as far as offensive line goes. You definitely need a couple of people in there. I would say you probably need to, and again, I'm gonna say this right now. I think that the Raiders' very first pick in the coming draft, in the 2026 draft, needs to be the top offensive tackle in the draft in round 1. And I think they need to follow the Giants' recipe, and trade back up in round 1 and get a quarterback.
Mhm.
And there's a couple that I'm looking at. One is John Mateer, quarterback out of Oklahoma. I think he would definitely be there. He's got a strong arm. He's mobile, and those are two things that we don't have right now. We don't have
Is-
a young, strong guy that's mobile with a good arm.
right, and he was a very highly and I tell you what, folks. Again, the fact that we are doing mock drafts and it hasn't even hit McDaniel firing day.
Yeah.
I say McDaniel's firing day because I know he was fired on like Halloween. We haven't even hit that yet, and we're doing mock drafts for 2026. That is a horrible thought. A horrible thought. But we got to, because what else do we have to look forward to other than, I'm not trying to poo-poo it. I will be out there. There's still the possibility of maybe some surprise wins, but I look at the schedule and I look at this, and I'm not trying to be an ass. I'm a very positive person, unlike another person that was telling Pete Carroll as he was walking off the field the other day, "Hey Pete, you're on the hot seat." I'm not that fucktwad. I mean, but I need to see something, and I need to see Pete's vision go through. But you were talking about coaches. Hey, Rich, how you doing, brother? Good to see you, Rich. My shipmate. Going to see him in Houston. You want to see what the Pete Carroll coaching thought process can do. But were you, did I read you right that there are maybe some junior coaches or coaches that you think ought to be shipped out immediately? Because remember, we did that with Luke Getsy in and around the bye week. We got rid of him, and we had the Turners come in and run things the rest of the way. I know the bye week actually is a little early this year for us, but I can still see it. What do you see as the main sweeping of what's going to be going on for the Raiders? I know Jacoby Myers is gone, and folks, I'm like, if you can get a 4 for Jacoby Myers now,
Yeah.
do it, because you're only going to get 3 at the end of the season, and the other receivers, Thornton and Besh, and even Bo Jackson's nephew, the other Jackson, he needs time to be in there. And the old thing, throw it up against the wall and see what sticks. We got all of these products that we need to look at. Wasn't you and I saying last week, I want to see Grant, I want to see Rodgers, hell, I want to see Laki Tassi. There's nothing else that we, why not? I mean, they're not going to be playing as poorly, at least not on purpose, as Alex Crappa. And yes, I said that name correctly. Let's do something about it. And I found out
I'll agree with you. Yeah, I'll agree with you. DJ Glaze, I think they need to go ahead and move him over to left tackle. Colt Miller may be done. I hate saying that, but he's had some injury history. They've gone ahead and paid him, and he's got the longest tenure of any Raider right now, obviously, going on 9 years. But again, I think he may be done. And if that's the case, you need to start rebuilding that offensive line. Let's go ahead and kick DJ Glaze over to left tackle, and let's put Grant in there at right tackle. Let's let him grow. Let's let him build. He's going to make mistakes and he's going to get torched, but let's go ahead and let him do that now. The expectations are low for this team, and he'll have plenty of opportunity to come in and improve. So I think you have the ability to do that. Why not? Caleb Rogers, let's go ahead and get him some work at the guard position, and let's see what we have. Those two guys were drafted back to back, and let's see what they have. Let's put Pegues on the defensive tackle. Let's put Hemingway in there. Let's get those young guys going. Let's see what they have. I want to see more with Eichenberger in the
Berg brother, Eichenberg and Lindenberg.
Lindenberg, Eichenberg and Lindenberg. Let's see him cook, and in the linebacker spot. Let's see what we have, and the secondary will either improve or not based on what we have. Stokes, I think, has been a good pickup.
Yeah.
We'll see if the others can progress. Porter, I think, is getting better. He's not dramatically better, but I think he'll continue to get better as he gets reps. But uh, that's going to continue to be a sore spot for the Raiders. And Jack, I think you and I are in agreement on this. For years and years and years, the Raiders would just squander high picks on defensive backs, and not even top tier defensive backs, risky
Mhm.
picks. And it's really come back to bite them. And they never have anybody who's stuck. You'd have to go back. Oh yeah, Mitchell Rentz is calling for everybody's head.
Yeah.
He always does.
Mitchell Renz is the authority. Mitchell, if you don't listen to Mitchell Renz, then you need to turn in your silver and black everything, because Mitchell Renz
or buy the merch that he's selling.
Yeah.
When we talked about heads rolling this week, and again, I think this is really the question I have: is Pete Carroll more loyal to his son, or is he more loyal to the fan base? Because the fan base wants something. Somebody's going to have to pay a price in order for this fan base to be satisfied. They're not just going to sit back and say, okay, nothing's being done at all, because there's not really anybody out there that we can bring in to make an impact. So I think what Pete has to consider is it going to benefit the locker room and the fan base to let Brennan go? Can I sit Brennan down and explain to him the fact that moves like this happen all the time, regardless of whether you're my son or not? It comes down to who and what is the weakest link. It is Brennan Carroll. He is the weakest link, and is what they used to say: "You are the weakest link. Bye-bye." This is
I miss that
business.
British lady, because she should be put on. That should be her job this week. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. And just get rid of it.
And I think that would I think build some rapport within the locker room. If all of a sudden the player said, "Okay, they've chosen us over him," I think that would make a big statement. I think that would be enough to probably help them raise their necks a little bit and play well against Jacksonville coming off the bye week. I think that might be the thing.
Actually, I agree with you, and I'm going to throw my big butt in here, figuratively and literally. Okay, I listened to our esteemed Reggie Kinlaw last night, and he professed it's everybody. It's the organization, it's the coaches, it's the players. It's probably the guys selling beers at Allegiant too. Let's throw everybody in there, okay? This is a groupthink problem. And he did say that the players need to play and the coaches need to coach. Okay. If this is true, these are players, and I think we mentioned it last week as well. These are players from the Gruden regime, Gruden 2. These are players from the McDaniels regime with, fuck shit nuts. I'll say it for Jack since he's not here. Jack Kenna, McShit nuts, and his crony GM, Gruden and his crony GM. Then we get rid of him, and it's like Antonio Pierce and Tom Fiasco, and I'll drop that for Sharif since he's not here. So that's four organizational pieces in one locker room. That's like getting a Johnny Cash car one piece at a time. For all you old fucks out there, you build it one piece at a time, but they don't fit well. And
I'll throw one more regime piece in there too.
Okay.
Let's not forget about Rich Bisaccia, because when Bisaccia took over as the interim, the guys really revolved around him, and he held that team together. He was the glue. It was almost like a little mini regime in itself. So, I credit Rich Bisaccia with a lot of the success that happened on the tail end of the Gruden and Henry Ruggs saga, everything that happened in 2021, and it had Derek Carr in tears, but Bisaccia was really the guy who grabbed everybody by the scruff of the neck and said, "Okay, let's get going, and we can do this." And he convinced them. I've heard it said many times, he was a leader of men, and he was. He might not have been the head coach, but he was the coach for the time, and he did the best job of any that we'd had in any short term.
Yeah, and again, I don't. And we've had this discussion about Bisaccia. Bisaccia would have been a hell of a lot better choice if he would have had a dynamic offensive coordinator and a dynamic defensive coordinator, and then he could have been like Marv Levy. Yes, I say Marv Levy because Marv Levy was a special teams coach. John Harbaugh was a special teams coach, but they had the pieces together to make those teams what they were. Unfortunately, Rich didn't wow anybody when he went into the interview, and Mark's like, "Yeah, no thanks." It's unfortunate, but
he wasn't truly a head coach, and again, I get that, I understand that, but I agree with you, Jack. Had he had the right pieces around him, they could have ridden him during 2022. They could have certainly done that, and I think we would not have had the total fiasco that was the Derek Carr situation. And we've talked about this before. I thought Derek Carr was kind of on the way out anyway, but I would have definitely held on to him for 2022. I would have held on to him through the 2023 season. Had that be his kind of swan song year, that would have been year 10. Let's bring in a rookie at that point, and let's go ahead and turn over the reins. That's what I would have done. But what they did was they totally cut off the nose despite the face and had nothing. And then all of a sudden, Stidham, the guy they turned it over to, he's gone. And then we had to go looking for something. And that something ended up being Jimmy DiCrapolo.
Oh, well, you're DiCrapolo, and I'll raise you Jimmy Garbageopolo. Okay, so well, the same thought process there. Jimmy G-string or G-spot, if we're going to go into the guy's a good-looking dude. Okay, and I say that as a man. He definitely can get his porn pics when he's not playing. He's in the right area. He's in LA. I mean, he can do porn on the side and not even miss a beat, right? But
former Raider quarterback Matt Leinart was a good looking guy too, but he couldn't hit the side of a barn.
Yeah. I think Matt's probably done some porn, but
he might have.
Not officially though. But we need quarterbacks and not porn stars. I will say that. Right. We need and I don't know if you heard this on my show the other day there, but for those that have missed it, according to a person that is well and highly placed of knowledge within the Raiders, not in the organization, I got to quantify that. It's not Raiders personnel, but somebody that is highly knowledgeable and intertwined in the goings-on of what's going on with the Raiders. I have to say that. That's true. Geno Smith, you can thank Tom Brady for Geno Smith. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? But apparently, the Raiders had the right idea. They were thinking, new start. Let's bring in Sam Darnold, and Tom, according to the source, did the John Pinette nay. Not Geno Smith or not Sam Darnold nay. We're going to bring in Geno Smith because I like what I see out of him and project him to be. And if true, then, and it's not that I dislike Brady more because he's in our organization. I mean, if he's in our organization, at least do something positive, and him bringing in Spytek. And for all those that are just lambasting Spytek has got a good pedigree, and I think that he will work out. But it starts from the quarterback. It starts with that offensive line. It starts with the coaching. And like you said, Tom, or Fester, or whatever the fuck I'm calling you this show, we got to have good coaches. And I don't know if Pete's going to ask his son to fall on the sword, because then it's just another case of throwing something out before you see the process go through. I'm not really enamored with Brennan Carroll. I'm not. And he's not an offensive line coach. So if it's him that goes, and if he goes to another portion of the organization to do whatever the fuck he was doing in college, I can see that. I don't know if there's anybody else in the organization. And is what's his nose, the guy that was doing line last year, the older offensive coordinator, is he still in the building?
Carmen Brasillo?
No. The senior offensive assistant.
Oh, not Joe Witt. Gosh, I'm
Joe
drawing a
Philbin.
blank here, Jack.
Joe Philbin.
That's right. Joe Witt is the defensive coordinator for the Washington team. That's right.
Yeah. Is Joe Philbin still there?
As far as I know, he is. As far as I know. Yeah.
Well, there's a possibility there.
Well, we'll have to see again where does Pete Carroll's allegiance lie, and what is he willing to do in terms of changes here in midstream to kind of give the team a shot in the arm. If he's not willing to do that, then maybe it's just a matter of getting guys healthy again. Now, Brock Bowers has been out for a while, so maybe it makes a difference if you can have a team and have both your tight ends, Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer together. They haven't been together since week 1. Again, maybe you get some offensive linemen back. Maybe you, I don't know. I don't know the answer, to be honest with you. But maybe just getting Brock back is enough.
Well, I know that they signed somebody to the practice squad that has offensive, and I think there actually comes from New England. Actually, I missed that. I missed the ask Mark about that. I saw that there was a lineman that they signed just like the other 2 days ago, because they got rid of 2 guys and they brought in a guy that has offensive line experience. I believe he's from the Pats, and they signed him to the practice squad, and he has starting experience. I'd much rather have him be available than Stonehenge out at left tackle.
Yeah. Stone Forsythe is not working. He's not working out too well. Now I'm checking the roster. I'm checking to see who that was. You said offensive tackle, correct?
Yeah, I believe so. I know he's an offensive lineman. I think he's a tackle.
But you said they signed him to the practice squad, right?
Right. They just signed him a couple of days ago, so it'll be a recent transaction.
So wasn't it Tony Amafi? He's been with them since the beginning.
That guy.
Yeah,
that guy needs to go. He's horrible. He's horrible.
It's not Leroy Watson the fourth, is it?
I don't believe so. But this was just a transaction that just occurred a couple days ago. If not,
the only other guy that I can think of is Layden Robinson. He's a guard, second-year guard out of Texas A&M. That's the name I'm not familiar with. So he's on the practice squad now.
That's the guy. Yeah, I thought he was a tackle. He's a guard, but we do need a guard.
Layden Robinson, 6'3", 310, second-year player.
Okay, but
Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's the guy. And I tell you what, I know you played better than Alex Crappa. And Alex, I know you are a professional player, and I'm going to do the Stuart Schwaggart thought process that there is not one person in the NFL that sucks. Stuart, I buddy, I gotta say, in this case, you're wrong.
Yep. Yeah.
Crappa is horrible.
That was a bad decision from the get-go. That was a head scratcher for me. It's like, why are you paying this guy all the money? Well, because we hope that he can restore himself to where he was. No, we've talked about this over and over. If he's injury prone and if he's on the downhill, you don't pay him a bunch of money thinking he's going to turn it around and be good again. You don't do that. You just don't do that.
Tom, do you know? Because I'm not sure who it was, but somebody was delineating, and maybe it was Johnny. And I haven't heard from Johnny. I'm going to take a quick look. The cap possibilities, because somebody was saying that we can get rid of Geno Smith, like a June 1st cut, and it wouldn't be as horrible as people are saying.
Yeah, that is correct. I'm not sure what the exact cap hit is, but I think you're right. I think, but the way it was structured when he came in, we could move on from him after a year. It wouldn't be all that devastating. Now, you've got to have something in place, but he's a 35-year-old quarterback, and he's not getting any better. Pete's only going to be in town probably for 2 more seasons. And again, that's simply because once he hits age 75, he's going to be turning over the reins to somebody.
Right. Yeah, I was looking. I don't see anything from Johnny. I'm not sure if Johnny will be joining us.
Okay.
Wentz tonight is playing worse than Geno, if you can imagine that. I don't have the game on, so I'll take your word for it. That's what Wentz. That's Vikings, right?
Vikings Chargers. Yep.
Oh, okay. So that means the Chargers are probably whooping that ass.
Probably so. Probably so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
but we'll have to wait and see. But I'll tell you this, Jack. The Chargers are kind of an enigma for me. They always have been, because for years they would always be the team that people would pump up at the beginning of the preseason and say, "Oh, the Chargers are going to be great this year. They might even go to the Super Bowl."
Yeah, they're everybody's pick to be the surprise pick to be the AFC champions.
Right.
No,
I'm still holding my mark. I'm still holding my mark that Denver's going to win the division this year.
Yeah.
Kansas City is looking like, if they continue to play like they have the last couple of weeks, they're going to be a playoff team as well, probably wild card. But the Chiefs and Broncos have not played head to head yet. I'm going to be interested to see those 2 matchups to see what happens. But I think Sean Payton's got it figured out. He's got a hell of a defense this year. He's got a second-year quarterback who's figuring it out. They've got a good receiving core, and they've got an organization that's good now. It's good and stable. I see Mike Sarah's got the game of 21-3 Chargers. I'm not surprised at that one bit.
Yeah, I was told that and again, I didn't see it, that the Chargers wore their icky yellow uniforms last week.
Yeah, that was awful. There's only one uniform combination I've seen that was worse than that, and that was several years ago. The Jacksonville Jaguars showed up in these all mustard. They showed up in these all mustard uniforms, and they played against the Tennessee Titans that were wearing all powder blue, and it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's an eye strain. I thought you were going to trot out the Denver Broncos under McDaniel wearing their throwback brown with the pinstripe socks and the horse that looked like he was on drugs for their logo. That's a horrible uniform too.
We call that the mule. That wasn't Bronco. That was a mule.
Yeah, that was horrible. But we're biased. Beats a Raiders uniform. I will say that.
But we circle back to the mock draft, and I do want to preface this by saying the only reason why I brought that up is because I think the probably one of the best offensive linemen available in the draft will be available around pick 10, 11, or 12. That's where I hope that the Raiders will be picking. I hope that they're not picking up in the 4 or 5 spot. I hope that they can win enough games to maybe get up to the 10th or 11th or 12th spot. Now, if they don't, certainly they'll get an even better pick. But again, I think what they just need to get the best offensive lineman they can, and then still be able to draft back up into the draft and pick a quarterback. That's going to be my formula this year. I don't care whether they finish toward the very top of the draft order or toward the middle. I think they've got to get the best offensive lineman first, and then take a gamble. Let's go ahead and let's roll the dice. Let's bring in a quarterback. We haven't done that. Still haven't done that since Derek Carr, 2014. It's got to be done.
Well,
you may get the right guy, you may not.
I was going to say, technically, they did pick a quarterback in round 4 that played. Now, I know, but that's the reason why Dallas has Dak Prescott, because we took Dallas's quarterback and they drafted Dak Prescott, and the kid that we drafted was out of Michigan, and I forget his name, but I mean Connor Cook. Thank you. But because Connor Cook went to the Raiders, because Connor Cook went to the Raiders, the Cowboys drafted Dak Prescott, and the rest is history, kind of, sort of. And
how successful has Dak Prescott been? How successful has 4th round pick Dak Prescott been for the Cowboys? He has stats, but how many wins does he have? How many division championships does he have? How many times has he been to the NFC Championship?
Yeah, I got you. And Ed, the answer is probably based upon what I was told from the person that I was told this through the source unmentioned. It probably did not even occur because Tom Brady said, we're going to bring in Geno Smith. That is not me saying this. This is my personal friend who has the source well placed that is saying Geno Smith was brought in by Tom Brady. That's all I'm saying. Don't put that one on me. That is per source. I was going to say secondhand, but the person that told me this is very well knowledgeable. And I would, if he said that, X, Y, and Z, I would believe him every day of the week. And his source is very well placed. So it's not bullshit. So if that's true.
Jack, I heard the same thing. And I heard the analyst from NFL Network talking early on. And what they were saying is, with Pete Carroll's history and Pete wanting to come in and have somebody at the quarterback position who can win now, that's the guy he trusted. That he can come in, he knows the system, he's got the history with Pete Carroll. He can come in, he doesn't have to be anybody's understudy. He can come in and he can win right away. And that's what they wanted. They wanted somebody who could come in and win now. They saw Aiden O'Connell. He was still raw, still rough around the edges. They didn't really know what they had. He was, again, just coming into his 3rd year. Again, you knew what you had, but what you had was not mobile. His passes still weren't crisp to the point where they could be depended on. And he just wasn't the guy that had the leadership capability that they could just turn the reins over to him and say, okay, this is your team. And they felt like they had that in Geno.
Yeah, Mike, I'm going to disagree there. Spytek's roots and his pedigree and his knowledge, I know he's Tom's buddy. I get that. But his picks were laid out for him by the scouts from last year. Not his scouts. Because remember, the picks that we had were based upon the scouting organization that was part of Fiasco, another Sharif note or nod there. His staff, his picks. Okay. So it's not Spytek sucking. Give me a draft with Spytek. Give me 2, and I'll tell you if you're right or wrong on that. But the guy
Let's
that
see
we
how
got,
these 9 players do. Let's see how these
yeah,
9 players do, because he's got
right.
9 players in combination of offense and defense. If you combine these 9 players with 5 or 6 more, and that's 15 to 20 players, again, that's about almost half your team. You
Yeah.
can do that. If you can do that with 2 consecutive classes, that can turn that thing over in a hurry.
Yeah. And also, like I said, the guy that, or I didn't, I'm sure I didn't say it this time, but they picked up the guy from Philly that was in the ear of Howie Roseman year after year after year. So it's Howie's guy. The guy had that guy, not Switek, but the guy that they brought in for draft purposes has the Midas touch of Howie Roseman, and he is knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And now I will agree with this. Subpar free agents, Alex Krappa comes to mind. Okay. We could have had somebody a lot better, but you might blame Spytek on that one. That I'll give you, because his familiarity with him came from their Tampa Bay thing. Okay. Why doesn't Spytek get?
I'll call Malcolm Kuntz a subpar free
Yeah.
agent. 'Cause, again,
Yes.
they re-signed him and paid him some money, so I would consider him as a kind of a bust as far as free agency goes.
I'll agree with that as well. Hey, Ed, why doesn't Spytek get the best? That's not his job is to hire them, but if they're not available, he has to go with what is available. That's one reason why the guy that we got from Philly is going to be very good for us, and I want to see what he can bring to the table for his thought processes. So we'll see, because the elite scouts that you're talking about, they're new. They're new, okay? We'll see what happens. And yes, money makes the world go around, just like Eliza was singing in Cabaret, okay? Money makes the world go around, the girl. Yes. So we'll see what happens.
He
Go
had
ahead,
one of
Tom.
the best scouts in the building. We
Yeah,
let him go. His name was
Champ
Champ Kelly.
yeah. But that was a Mark Davis, Tom Telesco thing. Champ was not going to stick around with Tom
Ziegler.
Telesco. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were not going to stick around. Mark doesn't say, Ed, I disagree again. Mark, all he does is spend money.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Mark, all he does is spend money. It's what he spends it on that sometimes is it real? Is it Memorex? He brings in people that knows more than him. Allegedly. He brought in Telesco because Telesco was the most knowledgeable general manager that was available. He brought in Tom Telesco and he was gone. So
1 year.
And for all those people that he brought in, all those people that he's still paying money on, he's paying what, 3 head coaches and 3 assistant head coaches, and how many general managers? And it's got to be at least close to $100 million.
Oh yeah, easily. He's just got to be able to ride with it at least for a couple of seasons, and I'm hoping that maybe Spytek will do that. If Spytek's able to roll for 3 or 4 years, I mean, it's got to be at least 4 years. I mean, let's take it at least through the 2028 season. At least. Got to have some stability there. And I think he needs to be the one to determine who the next head coach is going to be. Mark needs to lay that in his lap. It doesn't need to be Pete Carroll's decision, anybody else. It needs to be Spytek's decision. He needs to decide when and where that trigger needs to be pulled and who's going to get it. That should be his decision. And if Mark's not willing to do that, we'll be right back where we started from. If he's not willing to give Spytek that power and say, look, I'm trusting you with this. You make the call on this. You decide when it's going to happen and who it's going to be. And Pete doesn't have a say in that unless he decides he wants to retire after next year or whatever. And then that may speed up the process. But But Spytek has to have that power and that control, and he has to know that he has it. Mark's got to invest him with that and say, okay, this is your baby. And we've started. You've got 9 players that you brought in, and that's the start. And it's going to determine we got to bring a new quarterback in. We got to get some things figured out. We got to get some of the coaching pieces aligned around it. But we have to have a firm foundation, which we don't have. I'm hoping that's the beginning of a firm foundation, but in order to have a firm foundation, you got to have it at least up there 3 or 4 years.
Okay. I'm going to ask you about this one because I know what my answer to that is. What are your thoughts on that, Fester?
Well, it would be a good move to get McDaniels from Miami when he gets fired as the OC and fire Kelly. No. Nope.
Thank you.
Nope. No. I think that's a snap decision, and I don't think it brings any dividends. Kelly just hadn't got it figured out yet. And again, I think part of it will be, let's see what happens when he has both of his tight ends together healthy, like they did in week 1. Let's get to the point where we can use Genty more in the passing game as well as the running game. Let's get offensive linemen who can freaking block and not get penalties at the inopportune times. Let's get the offense not turning the ball over, and let's have complementary football where we have the defense contributing as well. All that's got to come together. So I don't see Kelly getting fired. I don't think bringing McDaniels in from Miami helps anything.
Yeah, and I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more, Tom. A wide receiver that doesn't quit while he's on the field. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jacoby Myers takes ball, catches ball most of the time, and drops because he's not giving his body up. He's not giving his body up, and he's going to be gone. I almost firmly see it that he's going to be gone by the next Raider game. He won't be here. Okay. This is the time to get the other wide receivers more involved in the process. And remember when Derek Carr was unavailable for the last 2 games of that season because they didn't want to get him injured in order to him to pay that contract. Okay. Mike Sarah says the same thing. Kelly's not getting fired.
No.
Pete Carroll is not getting fired. Whether they move some of the other pieces, yeah, maybe. We'll see. But those guys are not going anywhere. And Patrick Graham is not going anywhere.
I'm going to make a prediction. I live here in the D.C. area. The D.C. Receiving corps is banged up. You've got one guy on IR. Debo's been kind of in and out. McLaurin's been nursing some injuries. I wouldn't be surprised to see them make an offer and bring in Jacoby Myers. I would not be surprised to see Jacoby end up in Washington.
Well, there are plenty of teams that need receivers. Tampa Bay, Washington, New England would like to have him back because he knows the McDaniels system. Those are 3 right there. That if he goes
back to New England.
Well, we're done with New England. We're done with New England. Okay, we already played them. Okay, so there's nothing that is gained by. I mean, it's not like we're going to see him in the playoffs. Okay, maybe next.
I'll
year.
tell you this. See, the reason why I say it's not going to be New England is because New England is going to make the playoffs this year. I think.
Yeah, but
they're probably going to trade with a team that is not going to be that high up. That they may trade thinking they may make the playoffs, but again, I think that it's probably going to be a different team. I think the Washington team is not going to end up with as good a record as they had last year, definitely. But I think Jacoby could end up in Washington. Again, that's just my thought. I could be off.
Yeah, well, they're gonna in my estimation, and I agree with that. The Bucs are making the playoffs.
Yes, they are. They are.
The Bucs are making the playoffs. The Pats are making the playoffs. So you're saying let's look for a team that may or may not make the playoffs, and that's where we deal them to. The Steelers, as of right now, are going to make the playoffs, and they need a receiver as well.
True.
So
you're looking then at probably teams that are in that mid tier. Okay, I see that. I see that.
Yeah, but they're gonna move him. Getting him out of the locker room when he is a person that has no desire to put forth an effort, get his body hurt so that he can't perform when he's going to be this next year. Look how great Mr. Strike, like Mike was saying about like Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams looked like he had just gotten some love potion number 9 when he left the Raiders and was a Jet, because he was inspired and he got a lot better play. Okay.
He was that way when he first came to the Raiders. He really he took off his first couple of games, and then it just flattened. They hit a rough spot and it just kind of flattened out.
Ed, we'll have to talk about that last one, but I want to know what your source is on that. If we're going to make comments, I disagree with that as well. Are you going to pay a coach that is the highest paid offensive coordinator in the game and get rid of him again with all the other coaches that we are paying for currently, and you're going to add Chip Kelly to that list? I don't think so. Mark doesn't.
I don't either.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. So he said he started drinking. Okay. I agree. But
I think Chip Kelly's.
They think he is the right coach. He's just look what things need to be cycled out. Things honestly need to be cycled out, and I think that's going to happen. And
Chip
the Raiders
Chip Kelly needs to develop a young quarterback. Chip Kelly they need to bring in a young quarterback that Chip Kelly can take under his wing and develop, somebody who's got a strong arm, somebody who's mobile, somebody who's on a rookie contract. That will allow Kelly to have the time and the energy that he needs to get it done. With a guy like Geno, it's not going to work. It's only going to connect to a certain degree. So again, they're not on the same page. It'll be hard to get them on the same page. That was one of my concerns early. That Chip Kelly and Geno Smith were not going to be able to get on the same page.
What are your thoughts about Cam Miller?
Cam Miller is a good quarterback. He's a little more arm strength, a little more mobile than Aiden O'Connell, but that's the guy. It's a stronger, more mobile version of Aiden O'Connell. I don't see a lot in him as far as franchise type capabilities. I really don't.
No, he is
interesting. It's kind of interesting that the only 2 guys that they brought in who didn't make the team were both quarterback prospects.
That didn't make the team? What, the kid out of UNLV?
No, that Tommy Mallett.
Yeah, Tommy Mallett. I got him. The other guy.
Yeah.
And
what happened to the other guy, the guy at the UNLV, he just kind of dropped off the map. I don't know what happened with him.
He got cut in the preseason, right before either the second game or whatever. I was asking about him. They said no, he's gone. I'm like, okay.
Quiet. They didn't even really publicize it too much, because I looked all over, scoured and see if any team picked him up. It's like, yeah, he's out there. He just got unceremoniously cut, and nobody knows what happened. So,
yeah.
But anyway, well, Jack, I'm going to have to take off here, but I'm going to look forward to talking with you next week, because next week we are going to be preparing for Jacksonville. We'll see where things shake out as far as the division. The Chiefs are going to be playing Washington next Monday. The Chiefs are starting to get on a roll now, and they're going to play a Washington team that's not at full strength. The Chargers are rolling tonight. Denver just made that big miraculous comeback over the Giants, and I think they're going to continue to play well. So, we're not sitting in a good position right now, division wise.
No, we can only go up.
We can only go up.
I honestly, I want to say, because I was telling people, oh yeah, the Raiders are going to be a better team this year. In order for them to be a better team, they got to win 5 games.
Right. Right.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope that I am correct on that. I'm pretty sure my bet for them to win 7, that's gone. But for them to
The
win 5,
Jacksonville game is winnable. The Jacksonville game is winnable. They'll be coming off the bye, get some guys healthy, and even though they're going to be again, Jacksonville's had some ups and downs. They beat Kansas City, but I think that Jacksonville can be defeated. I really do. I think they can come up with a win that game.
well, then we'll definitely be talking about that in 2 weeks.
Well, yes, hopefully so.
Yeah, in 2
Hopefully
weeks.
so. So let's see if we get together next week. We'll again reflect on what's happened in the division and see if we have guys coming back, and maybe we'll have some news to talk about as far as coaches go.
Yeah, I'll be looking at that. I know that this weekend, actually tomorrow, because I've been doing a bunch of honeydews and things to go and get medical stuff and all the and lawyer stuff. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Let me have a day just to get caught up on. I still haven't. I got and not for TMI for everybody. I have 3 laundry baskets of cleaned, pressed, washed clothes that somebody who shall remain nameless is screaming, not literally but figuratively, screaming at me to put away because I never seem to have the time. It will be done by Saturday because our son comes over on Sunday.
There you go. There you go. Well, Jack, as we leave, I'm going to remind those that are watching something that they already know, and it's something that is on your hat. Just remember, regardless of the records, there's only one nation.
I like that. Hey, T3, Tom, Fester, Raider Fester Jones, thank you for joining me again on Thursday, and we'll see. There you go. Got it. We got to get you a jersey. We got to have that, and you can do it like the old kids where you wear it backwards. You know, so you wear the like they used to play with the old basketball jerseys. They would wear it backwards, so you would wear it Raider Fester across.
And have Fester on the front. Exactly. All right. Listen,
it.
Jack, take care. Have a wonderful week, and get those clothes put away.
I will. That's probably tomorrow morning. I'll do that. So thanks again, Tom. We'll see you next week, brother.
Have a good night. Okay, bye.
You be well. Take care. Tom Jones, T3, Raider Fester on the show. I don't know if I haven't heard from Johnny. I hope to see. Maybe I'll be on Johnny's show tomorrow because Johnny has a Friday show. Yeah, Vikings 3, Chargers 21. Is that game still going on? Oh yeah, third quarter, 8 minutes to go. 24-3. Yeah. Not looking good for the Vikings. Vikings should be 3-4. Chargers looking to be 5-3. So we'll see what happens after that. All right, folks. I've done 2 hours, but I'm going to do this. If there's anything that you want to come in and talk about, and I'm putting this up. I'm putting it up there. And I will say I think Mike Sarah, you are correct. If they stand pat, if they say Ed Winchell, thank you. Hit me up, Ed. But if you're not going to bed, if you're staying up for a little bit, I have a feeling I probably will be done within the next 15 minutes. But want to talk with you if you can. And Mike, Sarah, maybe if you want to pop in. I'm not sure how many people are on, and I thank you. I thank you for watching the show. I thank Mark Santos for coming in. I thank T3 Raider Fester, Tom Jones for coming in. I'm not ending the show unless we don't have anybody coming in. I will continue to read comments. And yes, Jacksonville is a better team. I agree with you on that one, Ed. On paper, they're definitely a better team. Unfortunately, you don't play on paper unless you're making those little triangle footballs that you would, flick on the table. That's on paper. They're a better team, but we'll see. But if you want to come in and talk, I mean, obviously, I got a couple minutes. If you want to pop in, Shreve wasn't here tonight. That's unfortunate. We didn't even have Jimmy Furpo. We didn't even see Matt Marinovich tonight. Wow. Talk about, they're not here. But I appreciate everybody that was here. Mike was here. Dory was here earlier. Obviously, Ed Winchell was here. I'm going through. It's been a lot of Mike and Ed. And has Pete lost the locker room? I think so, but we don't see that. We don't see that. Oh, John Leon was here. Good to see you, John. Not that I missed you. I apologize. I saw you in earlier. I'm going through Cool Kev, of course, making some noise. Good to see Cool Kev in here. I do like to make sure Rich Davis, my boy down in Texas. Thank you for showing up. And Brian, man. Brian Grievno was here. So yes, he was making comments back and forth. I didn't want to really say everything that was going in while Mark was on the show, but yeah, there's a lot of infighting here. I get it. Oh, Rosetown native. That's the kid. That's kid out of Sacramento, I believe. He was in here earlier. Robert Pena started the show, and Jay Room was here. So again, my game wife, I think is what she calls herself, my game wife. She was here earlier. I'm going to. I want to make sure I get everybody. Oh, Kenna was here. My goodness. I missed Jack Kenna. I missed Jack Kenna. Shame on me. And of course, Jack Guesta Feste was here from Jump. I don't think I missed anybody else. I apologize if I did. Oh, Jared from Pittsburgh was here. I missed Jared. I wish Jared would pop in, and Chewy. So there were a few more people in here. So I'm glad to see that. But we're not done yet. Raider Way, thank you for coming in. And how coaches do we have to change here? Well, yes and no. And thank you for that comment. Was it Segregate? Yeah, I really fucked that one up. I apologize there, shipmate. It's a combination of both. It's the fact that we have a turnover in coaches. We have a turnover in coaches with and I was saying it with the guys we have on the team that are from several regimes, and it's all piecemeal. Ace, okay, there you go. Ace O, thank you. Ace O Gregate. Who the fuck is? Oh, I got my caramels on the way. I can't wait to get that. Caramels.com. If you have never had them, fantastic. Now I wish I can get a sponsorship from them, and they pay me off in caramels. They're well, I'll say they're super expensive, but they're fantastic. So yeah, caramels.com. I am getting that order. Let's see. I said the Vikings are still losing 5 minutes and 45 seconds. I don't have the game. I do have the capabilities to do the prime. But that's another thing I have to do is hook that back up so I have it on my computer or on my TV, because it was there and now it's not. Maybe that'll be another thing that my son does on Sunday. So again, if you'd like to come in, Azo is here, and again, Raider Way, thank you for that coming in. We still got a couple minutes. I definitely am gonna keep it open, but I'm here. And yes, I will read comments for a while. But if you want to come in and hit the link, and it's depressing. Isn't it amazing that one of the more positive things I've said is that we will not lose this weekend? We will not lose this weekend. I will watch the games from the privacy of the Raider Captain Jack studio, and I'll watch whatever I want to watch. Azo, I think that I now that you mention it, that I think is being done. So all you people that are and don't be, this is a message. Maybe not the messenger, but this is the message. I think it's one of Pete's sons. And the reason why I say that is this. Patrick Graham is on his last contract. Patrick Graham would have been and again, my opinion. Patrick Graham was going to be the coach of the Jaguars until Liam Cohen fucked over the Bucs, gave him a second chance, and said, "Oh, that GM that was horrible, Trent Baalke, is not going to be my GM in Jacksonville. Yes, I will come within the state of Florida to come from Tampa to go up to Jacksonville and be your coach. Thank you." And that kind of left Patrick Graham out in the lurch. So Patrick, still under contract or whatnot, he's stuck around. So will it be a Pete disciple in as the defensive coordinator when Pete's the head coach next year? I could be way off. Pete can be gone at the end of the year, and it could be Chip Kelly. I don't think it's going to be Chip Kelly, though. Because first off, the offense has got to start working. Until the offense shows life, why would you have Chip Kelly as your head coach when the offense doesn't work the way it should? But that is with the right people, and there are not the right people. The offensive line needs to be there in order for the offense to work. And until that happens, so that excludes Chip Kelly, that excludes Patrick Graham, and who else is there? I think it's one of Pete's sons. That's just my thinking. I could be wrong. I once thought I was wrong, but I was mistaken. I can be mistaken, I guess, is the best way to say that. We'll see that. And that's the next thing there, Azo. We got a lot of dysfunction on this team because we have all of these guys that are from different regimes, and they all have different backgrounds, and they're not performing to the expectations of the coaches that we have there. Reggie Kinlaw said it last night. It's the coaches got to coach and the players got to play. And if that's not happening, that's what you see on the field. And when you say the players got to play, they got to be healthy. You need to see a healthy Brock Bowers. We will not see a healthy Colton Miller. because he's gone. The safety that we had that was on injured reserve, are they going to bring Lonnie Johnson? Are they going to bring him back? Because he was one of those guys that they were counting on to bring back. And yes, Gino cannot do that second read. Now that I know that Gino was Tom Brady's choice and not necessarily Pete Carroll's choice, if they have a healthy AOC 12, if they have a healthy Kenny Pickett, whose initial snap right in front of me in Kansas City was a fumble. Can't even get the snap. Fumbles the ball deep in Raiders territory. I think that's when they kicked the field goal. Horrible. Well, it looks like we're not going to have anybody else pop in. So I try. I say thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Push this out. And hopefully we'll get some more folks. I'm going to see if I can get some more people and some more players to come in. We'll see. But it was definitely wonderful to have Reggie Kinlaw last night, to have Mark Santos this evening. It was wonderful. I want to see more of it. So again, we will see you definitely Sunday. I'll have a show Sunday. Maybe I will be doing something tomorrow night. We'll see if I have a show by myself or if I have a show with Johnny. So we'll see you next week. It's 10:25 p.m. on the East Coast. Y'all take care. I'm going to be signing off. We'll see you Sunday for sure. And maybe tomorrow too. We'll see you. Take care.